everybody, it's Romania Black, and man, we are on part 77, aka chapters 244 and 245 of Heaven Official's Blessing! So, last week, I was going to read just chapters 239 to 241, and you all saw how that went. That cliffhanger was so cruel. And then afterwards in the Discord, when I told everybody the day before it was coming out, I was like, I couldn't wait. I had to read ahead. They were like, yeah. They were like, we were really concerned about that cliffhanger. And I was like, right? Because how? MXTX, what the fudge? You know, it's just one of those moments. So I was originally going to be watching this next week, but that's not going to happen now. So I'm going to be watching it and reading it this week. So that's exciting. I have been told a note. So this week is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to read chapter 244 from up here on the screen on my digital copy of the book. However, I am going to be reading chapter 245 from the English text, which is interesting. But I was told by Reiki on Discord that this version is better. And they preferred that I read this version. And I'm like, that's fine with me. So it's going to be me kind of reading like story time with Romania as I read from this book, which I've not done this entire time in 244 chapters. So it'll be different. But yeah, I that was what I was told. And then probably before the discussion, I'll go back and look at it through here and see what's different about it and talk about it. But I'm pretty excited. But yeah. Oh, we're not quite to the halfway point, but I feel like we're at the end game of the main story, and then we're going to do like Modazushi does and get into the extras. Which, if you read Modazushi, the extras are where all the spicy time happens. Now, do I think the Heaven Official Blessing will be as spicy time as Modazushi? God, no. I wouldn't be surprised if like the last chapter or the additional chapter that I'm going to read at the very end of this series is the spicy chapter, but I feel like what I would like is, here's the difference. Modazushi, if you've not read Modazushi, this isn't really a spoiler. You'll find out fairly soon in the story, but Modazushi, Lawanji and Wei Wuxian, they're kind of like into each other from the beginning, and it's just this big cat and mouse thing, and they're kind of kinky. So that's kind of their whole characters, is they're all kind of kinky. I don't know if that's the case with these two. We've had hints. We've had hints that there's possibly some kinkiness there, but it's not been fully explored. So I would rather the extras of this story take its time and build up Hua Chong and Shilian getting to know each other and developing that sexual attraction and all that some more. I would appreciate that. But do I want them to just go head on into Snogfest and Spicy Fest? Maybe not necessarily. I want it to be developed naturally. So, yeah. My dog wants me to play with this toy, but I don't know where it is. So he's probably going to bark until he loses interest. But I've got some comments I want to talk about before we dive into these chapters. Vevel 157 talked about, because I talked about the 5th and 7th volume covers, and they're really nice. I like them, but they don't seem to quite mesh with the other volume covers like the others do. Like volume covers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. And then this one, all are very thematic and they match perfectly. Volumes 5 and 7 are kind of weird. And I'm like, oh, okay. But they explained that the 5th and 7th volume covers are disconnected because the Chinese edition only has 6 volumes. So they had to make, because they split it up in the US to make us pay more money, which I'm not complaining. It's great. They had to split it up and make 2 additional covers. That's why they don't match up as well. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you, Vival, for explaining that. I appreciate that. SQQLBH314 says in chapter 234, when Shilian was taken by Bai Wusheng to the bridge and was released, that whole chapter where Shilian was taken by Bai Wusheng was originally released on Valentine's Day. MXTX. The fudge. What are you doing? Why? But are we surprised? No, probably not. No. But I thought that was really, really funny. And then, if only Shilian could test Hua Chong to see if he was real or not, back in that one chapter, when they were in the armory, and Shilian was trying to see, he used the password to determine if it was Hua Chong or not, SQQLHB1314 said it'd be really funny if they tested Hua Chong by having him either try his cooking or do handwriting. That would have gave it away, but such resources were not available. SQQLBH314 also says, I really like this comment that says that Ming could represent, because Hua-Chang took out their eyeball like long ago at Mount Tonglu and forged Ming with it, that Ming, that part of Hua-Chang's being that was used to create Ming, hasn't evolved and matured over time like the rest of Hua-Chang has. So I really like their idea that Ming could represent Hua-Chang's more raw and innocent side, and that its soul never matured like Hua-Chang did, so it's just this fierce love and devotion of Shi Lian in sword form. I love that. I think that's really, really cool. I like that a lot. Anime Annie points out that Mu Qing needs a Takao, and if you've not watched Kuroko's Basketball, you won't know who Takao is, but there's a character in Kuroko's Basketball who's a lot like Mu Qing. They're kind of tsundere. They're kind of grumpy. They're like Mu Qing a lot, but he has like a counterpart named Takao who kind of is his anchor. Like Takao is a jokester, he's tricksy, he's kind of like Hua-Chang if Hua-Chang was way toned down, but he's a great counterpart for Midorima in that series, because Midorima's grumpiness and angstiness kind of gets balanced by Takao's kind of carefree, like, oh, don't worry about it kind of nature, right? And Mu Qing unfortunately doesn't have a Takao. I mean, there is Feng Xin there, but I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Feng Xin and Mu Qing shipper, and I know people like go crazy over that ship. I get it. I just feel like they're a little too argumentative towards each other for me. I want a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more connection between them. But I think that it's really funny that there's the idea of Mu Qing needing a counterpart like that. Mu Qing kind of strikes me as the Jian Chang of Heaven Official's Blessing, oddly enough. And if you've not seen Moto Azushi, you won't know who that is. Also, Anime Annie pointed out that in a vampire series they were quoting, there's this phrase, "Once you go dead, no one's better in bed." And for a vampire story, that makes sense, but they were saying that in reference to Junwoo telling Shi Lian, well, he's a deceased man. Why would you want to get with him? And it's like, well, if vampire narratives would taught us anything, that has little to do with anything of why you wouldn't want to get with him. Oh, that was funny. I laughed really hard at that, so thank you, Annie. Kixkay talks about how when Mei Nianqing was saying that Hua-Chang, because he was born in the Star of Solitude, he would either have the best of fortunes or the worst of misfortunes. And Hua-Chang kind of gets both. He kind of gets both. He has all these bad things happen to him, but because of Shi Lian, it kind of balances out. And then he got to ascend, chose not to, and to stay a ghost. And so he kind of got the best of both worlds, you know? And by the end, he gets to be with his Gege and be this powerful supreme ghost. So kind of gets the best fortune in the end, despite all the misfortunate things that happened to him along the way. So I liked that, Kixkay. And then finally, Slim Chan. I liked Slim Chan pointing out, they were like, you know, back in Moto Azushi, again, this isn't a major spoiler, but in Moto Azushi, there are a lot of rumors. Most of the rumors are not true. And so you get kind of conditioned throughout Moto Azushi that you're not going to have to pay attention to the rumors, or that whatever the rumors are saying, the opposite holds true. And I like that Slim Chan points out that MXTX kind of conditions you to think that when Heaven Official's Blessing starts, because I did that. When Heaven Official Blessing started and they were doing all the rumors about Hua-Chang at the beginning, I was like, okay, well maybe some of these are true, but they are alterations of the rumors, or maybe they're just the rumors in a different context, or maybe they're just lies. MXTX tricked me. I was fully convinced. I was like, well, I don't think all of these are true. No, they are. She spoils you from the very get-go, but you've been so conditioned by Moto Azushi, if you read it first, to not think that they were the truth. So I thought that was hilarious. I was like, okay, that's really funny. So yeah, those were all really, really good comments. I've gone back and reread the set of chapters back after the adrenaline died down, and I was like, I could actually savor it. That last page of chapter 243, that whole last page where it's talking about Shi Lian running up the hill, and then he sees Hua-Chang and sees his back to him, and he's starting to cry, and he like runs to him, and then Hua-Chang turns around and he's right there, and Shi Lian like leaps into his arms, and that line, last time they spent 800 years running towards each other, this time it took an instant to fall into each other's embrace. Just, so good. So damn good. It's so romantic. It's beautiful. It's everything I wanted. I wanted them to embrace each other at the Puji shrine. Yes, sir. Yes, madame. I freaking love it. So yeah, with that being said, we're going to read chapter 244 through the web chapter that I've got. And then I've got down here chapter 235 we're going to read out of the book. So that's going to be exciting. But I'm going to tell Huckleberry, go lay down. Don't do anything like that. He's very upset because I'm not throwing his ball for the 18,000th time today. But he'll have to deal with that. So in any case, I hope you all are excited. I definitely am. I can't wait to dive into this set of chapters. But we're going to look at chapters 244 and 245 of Heaven Official's Blessing. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Chapter 244, by Heaven Official's Blessing, no paths are bound. All come full circle. Is this the last chapter? Oh my God, if this is the last chapter, or maybe it's this chapter and next chapter is the last one, but I'm sure y'all are going to be pissed now that I stopped at 243 being like, if you'd gone one more chapter. But that's all right. That's all right. Congratulations, Your Highness. The newly built Puji shrine was bustling and lively, people going in and out, and Shilian traversed through several long tables that were stacked full, delivering bowl after bowl of hot, steamy noodles, flowing out like water, soups with oil glistening like gold, and snow-white, mouth-watering rice. He didn't cook any of this. Right? He didn't make a single bit of this, right? Or they're going to leave real quick. He was swamped, running about, and still had time to greet the guests, taking time out of the tasks in his hands to say, "Oh, thank you, please have a seat." The Puji shrine that had unfortunately collapsed in a brawl had been rebuilt. Oh, yes, good, yay! After rebuilding, the once dilapidated little shrine was now much more sumptuous, and a few new yards were even added. Oh, it wasn't actually Shilian or Huachong who had reconstructed, but the villagers. Oh, I love the common people remade it. That day, when Shilian fled in disgrace, they rummaged through the wreckage and actually found a box full of gold bars. Oh my God, what Chan Yizhen left. Naturally, it was the bunch that Chan Yizhen had stuffed into the donation box day after day. The villagers had never seen so much gold and were almost scared out of their wits. After they came to their senses, the village head took a part of it to rebuild the Puji shrine and didn't dare touch the rest, keeping it safe until Shilian returned to give it back to him. Oh my God! Like, there's just that faith they had in him. Like, that's the kind of humanity Shilian wanted to save. Like, just those people, those villagers were so kind. They didn't take it for themselves. They didn't steal the gold. They fixed up the Puji shrine and gave the rest back to him. Oh. Thus, when Shilian returned bringing Huachong, besides the enthusiastic greetings of Dao Zhang and Xiaohua, what also welcomed them was a brand new Taoist shrine and a box heavy with gold bars. Shilian had planned to return those gold bars to Chan Yizhen, but Chan Yizhen wouldn't have it, refusing them left and right until Huachong told him, if you don't take the gold bars back, you can forget about learning the correct method of nurturing souls. Oh! Only then did the child settle down and fix the bad habit of blindly stuffing gold bars into people's hands. By nurturing souls, are we talking about Yin Yu? Is Huachong going to teach him how to bring Yin Yu back? Okay. All right. That better happen, damn it. After making their greetings, the group of heavenly officials, with Mu Qing leading, crossed into the yard cautiously. They looked up, and when they got a full look at this Taoist shrine, all their words were instantly stuck in their throats. Gaudy! Too gaudy! Oh no! Oh, it's not gaudy. What? Oh, the bright, clashing reds and greens of celebratory colors, and that exceedingly exaggerated rainbow-colored divine statue weren't even the worst of it. Rainbow-colored? Oh, get it. The worst was the establishment plaque. And just what was written or drawn on that establishment plaque. It's the one that Huachong did back in the Paradise Manor, right? With the establishment of a new shrine, naturally there needed to be a celebration. But this new shrine's class and taste were terrible and tacky in every sense, especially with that despairing establishment plaque. And it made it really hard for anyone to have compliments leave their lips. In fact, all the congratulatory phrases they'd already thought of beforehand were thoroughly forgotten. Oh, come on now, be nice. However, Shilian didn't mind any of this at all and thought it was rather good. At least it wasn't a dilapidated building that could collapse at any time. Oh my god, just like reds and greens. Is Qirong going to be here? Please let Qirong be here. But the reds and greens, a rainbow statue. It's love is love, right? He greeted again. Please have a seat. That group of heavenly officials didn't look like they wanted to sit, and coming to congratulate was probably just to show their faces, so they hurried and left after delivering their gifts. Shilin turned to Muqing. Well, why did they leave in such a hurry? Do you even need to ask? Muqing said. Yeah, Shilian replied. Muqing spat crankily. Well, then why don't you go ask your good San Long? It turns out when Hua Chong first came back, the first one to know was Shilian, and the second was the upper court that hadn't even warmed its seat yet. Not just because it wasn't too long ago that the Battle of the Lanterns on the day of the Shangguan Festival that they had worked so hard to put together was suddenly murdered by Hua Chong's casual wave of 3,000 lanterns, just like that time during the Mid-Autumn Banquet. It was also because ever since that night, that bell started tolling like crazy, and the entire upper court was echoing with the sound of its announcement, like it was reminding them, the nightmare of the heavens has returned. Oh my god, yes! Do it, Hua Chong. Let them know who's back. He's like, the bitch is back. The nightmare was right before their eyes, so of course normal heavenly officials didn't dare to approach. However, the rumors about Hua Chong and Shilian in the upper court were already fairly hardcore, without any need of exaggeration. So they still kind of wanted to get in Shilian's good graces, so in the future they could beg Hua Chong to show some mercy. Figures. Shilian learned of this and recalled how in the past Hua Chong had demanded the upper courts proclaim his heroic achievements for an entire year, and laughed. Cheeky. This is not just a matter of cheekiness. Muqing scolded. Tell him to lay off a little. It's getting out of control. Right now, that bill is so noisy. Every day, no one can concentrate, and the entire upper court can't function. It even falls off time and again, crashing on people. The new heavenly capital is finally rebuilt. Don't let something like this destroy it again. All right, Shilian said. I'll tell him in a bit. While we're here, do you want to try? He pointed at the rice, the noodles, and the soups on the table in the yard and added, I didn't make those. Well, they weren't purple, so of course he didn't make them. When Muqing heard the first part, his expression was cold, rejection written all over his face. It only returned to normal after hearing the last part. Right then, Feng Shen had arrived too. He entered the yard just in time to brush by several other junior officials who were about to leave. They made their greetings and then whispered, That's General Nanyang. Oh, it's him. So sad. His wife and son ran off with some guy. Veins popped violently on Feng Shen's forehead, and he roared his curses on the spot. What the fuck? Aren't you guys tired of this? How many months have you all pushed me on this? Also, it ran away. Not ran off with some guy. Fucking stop spreading empty rumors. Those gossipy junior officials were terrified and hastily fled. Muqing stood on the side with his hands tucked in his sleeves. You might as well have not explained yourself. It only sounds even more embarrassing. Feng Shen was outraged, seizing a broom on the side and throwing it over. Muqing caught it instantly and snorted, This is old. You can't use it on me anymore. Aww. Feng Shen was about to yell some more when Shilian walked over and stuffed another broom in his hands. Oh, good. Then how about this? Why don't you both help me sweep this yard? We set off some firecrackers earlier, and so the ground is covered in red scraps. Thanks. If you get bored, you can train on some idioms, okay? After an hour outside the temple, there came the rowdy noise of human voices, coming closer and closer. The gathered guests in the yard looked out, and after a short while, a large crowd of people came pouring into the yard of the Puji shrine, shouting, Is it here? Oh, it's here. Oh, it looks impressive, too. Oh, there's really some rice, so much rice, and meat, too. The grounds that Feng Shen and Muqing had swept over once again, filthy from the giant crowd of muddy feet. Muqing gripped his broom, looking like someone had infected him with fleas, and his eyes were wide. What's with those beggars? Before the crowds of beggars was a man leading them. His hair mussed, his clothes sweaty. It was Shi Qingshang. He hobbled and hopped over, putting his hands together in courtesy. Your Highness, I've come to disturb you. So how about it? Does what we agreed to last time still stand? Shilian laughed. Everyone is welcome. Of course it stands. Have a seat, have a seat. Isn't this too many people? Muqing wondered. No, Shi Qingshang said. All the old masters who helped in the guarding the human array at the royal capital last year are here. At the time when they were guarding the human array, Shi Qingchong had promised the others that after the deeds were done, everyone would be treated to chicken legs, and everyone was included. But after the deed was done, no one could be found, so that chicken leg treat was never given. Today, they could finally fulfill the promise, and bowl after bowl of chicken leg noodles were delivered. Shi Qingchong said, "Everyone, no need to hold yourselves back today. Let's eat." The crowd of beggars squeezed in front from the tables to the ground, each of them cheering, then hugged their super big bowls, slurping and slurping, chomping and chomping. And as they ate, someone suddenly spoke up. "Oh, wait, there's something wrong. There's an essence of evil." The crowd turned their heads to look, and the complaint was actually from Heaven's Eye and Company. Shillian felt his headache. "How come you guys came too?" "We helped out last time too," Heaven's Eye said. "So why can't we come?" Then he raised his bowl high as here's his expression serious. "Everyone listen to me. I'm definitely not wrong on this. There's essence of evil in the food in these bowls, so it's probably nothing good. It's very suspicious. Put your bowls down quick." No one acknowledged him. The crowd of beggars had already finished eating one round, each raising their empty bowls. "Another one!" Function and Mu Qing were using their brooms to fight while sweeping away the yard full of red scraps left over from the fireworks. But when they saw the others look so content and fulfilled while eating, they sat down too, picking up a bowl for themselves. Just then Heaven's Eye exclaimed furiously, "How come none of you listen to reason?" Then he got up, ready to go check the kitchens, but Shi Qingchong held him back. "Really, Daozhong, you think too much. This is the Crimson Rain Sought Flowers territory, so it's normal to have the essence of monsters and demons." "Fine, you're concerned, are you? I'll go take a look. You just sit here and don't get too riled up." He really did rise to his feet and walk to the kitchens where they were and lifted the curtains. "You see, what's there to be so suspicious?" Shillian spoke up. "Wait, I'll go look too." However, when he, Shi Qingchong, Feng Xin, and Mu Qing poked their heads in and looked, they were all stunned. Inside the kitchen, there was a hunk of a boar butcher who was chopping on the cutting board like mad. If it wasn't for all the pork legs hung behind him, you'd think that it was human legs he was chopping. "Oh, it's someone from the Ghost City!" I was really hoping it was Qirong. I was really hoping it was Qirong making the food. And on the side, a fire was lit under a giant pot, and within the pot was a long-necked rooster spirit who was having the time of his life scrubbing himself. When he saw there were people from the outside seeing him, he instantly screamed, his hands covering his chest. Shillian was completely baffled and hurried inside to whisper, "Didn't I say you can't do this?" The rooster spirit cackled and slapped his chest and promised, "Oh, grand uncle, we've taken baths before coming. Very clean. Besides, this soup base has the effect of longevity. Eating this won't harm anyone. No loss. Can consume with peace of mind." Shi Qingchong silently dropped the curtains, while Feng Xin and Mu Qing instantly threw away their bowls, spitting. "I'd rather you cook." Shillian rubbed his forehead, feeling both amused and woeful. They were adamant in helping, and I couldn't say no. They're doing this out of goodness. Right then, Heaven's Eye seemed to have finally found the group of them sneaking around rather suspicious and came over too. Shillian quickly stopped him. "What is it?" He was afraid that once Heaven Eye saw the boar butcher and the others, he was going to start another riot. Yet unexpectedly, Heaven's Eye didn't come for those in the kitchen, but straight for him. He circled Shillian a few times and wondered in confusion. "That's weird." "What is?" Shillian asked. Heaven's Eye appeared puzzled and confused. "Well, this isn't right, Zhao Daozhong. How come the essence of evil on your body has gotten worse since last time?" "Aha! Ow!" Shillian lightly cleared his throat. Mu Qing humphed. "Well, hanging around a ghost king all day, of course it gets worse." However, Heaven's Eye said, "No, even then it shouldn't be like this." "Like what?" Feng Xin questioned. "They want to know!" After much hesitation, Heaven's Eye decided to be blunt. "Well, how come the essence of evil in your body is now internal?" It's entirely emitted from the inside out of your body now." "Oh! You've probably run into a major crime this time. What did you do? How come you're this ill?" Shillian couldn't even cough anymore. His entire face was going to burst with blood. Feng Xin and Mu Qing didn't understand at first. But after they thought about it, they both turned to stare at Shillian and fell silent. Shi Qingchong was the only one who couldn't wrap his head around it. "What is it? And so, what's going on, Your Highness? Are you really ill? Does the Crimson Rain Sought Flower know? He didn't take good care of you?" "Oh, no. It was because of him that it was like this." Shelian mumbled softly, no, actually, no, don't, I don't, why don't you, A mess of images were filling his mind, and he confusedly uttered a pile of meaningless words. Suddenly, his back bumped into someone's chest. An arm wearing a silver vambrant encircled his waist, and a familiar voice grinned. I think, why don't you all return to your seats, eat your food, and stop worrying about anything else? How about that? Oh, with the current situation, Shelian really didn't know whether he should feel absolved or even more awkward, and exclaimed, "Oh, so long!" The moment they saw Hua Chong emerge, both Feng Xin and Mu Qing's faces looked complicated, but before Shelian, they couldn't really say anything. Only Shi Qingchong still questioned very seriously, "Crimson Rain sought flower. Have you checked over His Highness's body?" Shelian slapped his forehead, desperately hoping that Shi Qingchong wouldn't ask any more questions, and just then, the crowd of beggars started complaining, one more bowl, add more meat, the chicken soup's so bland, add more salt. Mu Qing couldn't watch anymore. Do you all know this is a temple? It's for worshipping gods. Can you all watch yourselves a bit more? However, the crowd of beggars refused to take this. Last time, they held hands with many heavenly officials to hold down the human array, and they saw with their own eyes how some heavenly officials were trembling, fleeing last minute, and couldn't even match them in valor. They were also acquainted with Shi Qingchong, so they couldn't help but feel, so gods are like this. When life was on the line, they didn't seem that different than them. So the gods no longer appeared so high and unapproachable, harsh and inviolable. Suddenly, a surprised scream came from within the kitchen. "Who's there?" Hearing this, Shelian's heart instantly lurched and he dashed into the kitchen. The boar butcher and the rooster spirit were screaming and shouting inside, and Shelian hastily comforted them. Calm down, what's happened?" The rooster spirit was so shaken that goosebumps popped up all over his body. "Oh, granduncle, there's a ghost!" "A ghost emptied all the food we prepared. I only just dipped my head into the broth, and when I came up, there was not a bowl left. It's a ghost!" The boar butcher spat. "Well, what are you scared for? Aren't you a ghost yourself?" Shelian was slightly perplexed. "Well, how can that be? I clearly saw you guys make some 50 bowls now." "Yeah!" But when he looked again, sure enough, all 50-some bowls were empty, and even the broth was completely cleaned out. Shelian was still feeling puzzled when he suddenly thought of someone. And when he turned around, he saw Hua Chong leaning against the door. "So long could this be?" "More than likely," Hua Chong replied flatly. "Oh," Shelian mused. "He probably came also to congratulate. Well, of course he's welcome, but he ate a bit much. Now he's eaten all the food. What should we do?" Hua Chong smiled. "Nothing. Add to his interest." Oh, Hashan came and ate it all. Oh, I was like, is it Yin Yu? Is it Qirong? Oh, a ghost. Hashan ate all the food. Add to his interest. Oh my God. The mob of troubled ghosts from the ghost city resignedly started to cook from scratch. Just then the clamoring noises came from the great hall in the yard, sounding as if someone had started quarreling with another person. Shelian was just about to go mediate, when Hua Chong caught his hand and led him through a side door. The two walked out of the Puji shrine holding hands. Upon the path, there were trees blocking the way, and it would have been easier to traverse if they'd dropped their hands. But neither two wanted to let go of each other's hands. So they twisted and turned, detouring and deviating. As they meandered, Shelian asked, "So long, where are we going now?" "It's too noisy here," Hua Chong said. "Let them go riot. We'll leave first." Shelian walked as he turned his head back, sounding a little worried. Are we letting them be? Puji Shrine was only just rebuilt. What if it caves in for another fight?" Hua Chong didn't seem to care. "If it caves in, it caves in. We'll just build another one. If Gege wishes, you can have as many as you wish." Nighttime. Oh. Within the Qianding temple. After bathing, Shelian was wearing a light, snow-white inner robe, leaning over the jaded table next to the divan, drawing stroke after stroke. He was putting together a calligraphy copybook for Hua Chong. Hua Chong was reclined on the divan next to him, also wearing an inner robe, his collar slightly open. Oh my God, yes, please. His fingers were twiddling that red coral pearl at the end of his hair, looking bored to death. Under the lamplight that was tepid like jade, he had been gazing at Shelian all this time, and it was after having stared for a while before he squinted his eyes, appearing satisfied. He sighed, "Gege, enough with that. Come rest now." Shilian had just suffered his torment and was determined not to be tricked again. The tone of voice, however, made the tips of his ears burn, and he forced himself to say, calm, continuing to write. He said with a stern voice, "No, Sanlong, someone said your writing is ugly again today. You have to practice hard, right? Otherwise, I don't want anyone to know you've been taught by me." Huachong sat up, slightly arching his brows. "Gege, I remember in the past you said clearly you liked my writing." Ever since Huachong had came back, for a long period of time, Shilian was yielding and docile, answering his every whim. This is probably how he had finally spoiled Huachong rotten, and how Huachong had grown more and more sly. Shilian finished writing the characters and placed the brush down, sounding even more strict. "Knock it off, I'm done, come practice." Thus, Huachong lazily shuffled to Shilian's back. Hugging his waist, he bent slightly, resting his head on his shoulder. He removed that red coral pearl from his hair and placed it on the paper, making it chase after Shilian's hand, rolling around, purposely obstructing Shilian from writing properly. Such mischief, but at the same time so forceful in vaunting his sense of presence. Shilian remembered how Heaven's Eye had said his entire person was emitting the essence of evil all over his body from the inside out. This was all Huachong sent, and Shilian felt his heart go soft in spite of himself. He struggled lightly and whispered, "Write properly." "Fine, I'll listen to Gege," Huachong said. He raised his brush, but after 2 verses he put it back down. Shilian took a look and shook his head, mentally sighing for the umpteenth time, "It's hopeless." After a pause, he also raised a brush and helped Huachong fill in the last 2 verses. After he was done, Shilian lightly blew and picked up the paper, the two admiring the poem they'd written together. The ink upon the paper had formed the 4 elegant phrases that had spread throughout heaven and earth. "No water is enough when you have crossed the sea. No cloud is beautiful but that which crowns the peak. I pass by flowers that fail to attract poor me. Half for your sake, and half for Taoism I seek." Even a Ming, who was hanging by the table side, was watching unblinkingly with its eyes open wide, seeming to fully admire the work. Huachong laughed. "Gege, quick, sign your name." These words were surely stun future generations and pass through history. Shilian had already authored Huachong's name at the bottom earlier, but when he heard him, he really couldn't pick up the brush and add his own name. Huachong finished laughing and pretended to be serious. "Gege, are you embarrassed? I'll help you." Then he held Shilian's hand and wrote a couple words with rough strokes. Naturally, without the current scene, no one would be able to tell those were 2 words, and no one would be able to tell at all that it was Shilian's name. Shilian watched this thing written by his own hand, feeling ridiculous, wriggling his head by Huachong's chest. Suddenly he felt those couple of characters looked familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere else before. A moment later he remembered, and suddenly his eyes lit up. He exclaimed, "Sanlong, your arm!" He caught hold of Huachong's form and pulled up the sleeve, exclaiming excitedly, "It's this!" That period of time when the two had lived together in the Puji shrine, there was one day when Shilian had noticed a worded tattoo on Huachong's arm, looking like some characters from a foreign land. At the time, he even chewed on it in his mind, but he never imagined it wasn't some foreign writing at all. It was his own name. Oh my gosh! What? Oh, this whole time? Huachong also glanced at his own arm and laughed. Well, does Gege finally recognize it? "I should have recognized it a long time ago," Shilian said. It's just Huachong's writing truly was the craft of the devil. He didn't have said anything. He didn't need to have said anything, and Huachong could guess what he was thinking, and he started laughing heartily, a hand hugging Shilian's waist, giving his forehead a gentle peck. "Don't worry. It's fine as long as Gege's writing is beautiful. I would be 1,000,000 times happier than if my writing was beautiful." Shilian's hand caressed where the tattoo was. The ink of the tattoo was deep, and it was easy to imagine just how painful it had been. He asked softly, "Was this done when you were little?" Huachong smiled and pulled his sleeve down, nodding. Then, that was definitely something he had tattooed himself. Picturing the image of a small boy sneakily carving the name of the one he admired. Such childishness. Such courage. 10 fingers, clasped tightly together with a red string intertwined between. Suddenly, before Shilian's vision, there floated that scene of a year ago when Huachong had dissipated into butterflies at Mount Tonglu. That last moment, Huachong had uttered something. Yes! Although it was soundless, Shilian knew exactly what he had said. It was the words Huachong had lived by since he was a child, and eternally thereafter beyond his death. I am forever your most devoted believer. Folklore. Once upon a time, they say in that common world there was a scrap immortal. Although he is called the scrap immortal, what this immortal blesses aren't scrap collectors, but the peace of the mortal realm. This is because at the same time, he is also the strongest of martial gods. There exists no evil he cannot vanquish, and there are no ghosts he cannot slay. He possesses the power to annihilate the world, but he does not lack the heart to cherish the flower. However, to worship a god, there come a set of rules and taboos. If one was to come by a temple that worshipped this immortal, one must never prostrate so casually. Apparently, the scrap collector immortal has a special constitution and will summon misfortune. Don't believe it? Prepare a dice, rub the hand of the immortal divine statue and roll the dice, and your luck would for sure be the worst there is. So, to pray to this scrap immortal's dusty white divine statue might bring more and more bad luck the more one prays, to the point where even water can get stuck between teeth, or to see ghosts wearing Taoist robes. They also say that in the common world, there is such a red-robed ghost king. Although this ghost king is considered to be inhuman, he possesses an immense number of worshippers. There are often those who would secretly set up a shrine to the ghost king in their own abodes, worshipping day and night, praying for good fortune. This is because not only is the ghost king invincible, it appears he has never tasted a single defeat and his luck is incomparably powerful. Don't believe it? Before rolling the dice, prostrate before him. If he is willing to assist, then your next roll will definitely be exceptional. However, ghosts aren't like gods, so naturally there are even more taboos. While this ghost king is powerful, his personality is peculiar and extreme. If he's happy, he'll help you even if you don't pray. If he's displeased, you can give 1,000 gold and he'll still turn away. If he is very displeased, who knows if one day he would just take your life. So by the same logic, it's best to show your respects, but stay far away. However, if people worship the divine statues of this one god and ghost together, then there will be a miracle. The red-robed ghost king will expel all misfortune enveloping the scrap immortal and let him reveal his true appearance. People will shockingly discover that it turns out the scrap immortal's colors aren't dusty white, but shimmering gold. Legends are usually based on truth. However, this is probably a tale from long, long time ago. Maybe it would even need to be told starting from 800 years ago. And it would be a very, very long tale to tell. People might not have the patience to listen. But one thing can be certain. In order to have both of them display their strongest powers, the two must be worshipped together. In this way, one can receive double the fortune and twice the invincibility. Oh my God, I love that! Yes, they have to be together. By the heaven official's blessing, no paths are bound. Oh my God! Okay. So there is a postscript here. I don't know if I need to read the postscript, maybe. I kind of want to read the postscript, but I'm not really sure. Here, we'll read the postscript. There's like 6 entries here, so I want to read them here. The postscript, and then we'll get into the chapters in the book. That's why they need me to read in the book, because it's not in this version they sent. Postscript. On gentleness, dreams, and something never to be given up on, and someone never to be forgotten. Every time I write, the postscript always comes before the main text. When those words were written, the outline wasn't even fully fleshed out yet. Rather than a postscript, it's probably more so the conception before writing and thoughts while writing. Finally, this time the postscript doesn't begin with finally. To have TGCF follow Modao Zushi, the pressure is abnormally huge. I consider expectations to be a double-edged sword, which is why I always give out vaccination shots of warnings, although I feel none of that worked. But at the beginning, when I was planning setup and characters, What took hold of more wasn't nervousness, but an excitement for challenging a brand new world. So let's write about some happy things first. Folklore and local myths. In the second half of 2016 and the first half of 2017, in order to change pace and seek inspiration, I traveled to many places. I've always enjoyed folklore and local myths. I've visited many Buddhist temples and Taoist shrines, and the impulse to write TGCF came from this. In Chinese mythology, the legends, sometimes they would deify a real person and worship them as a saint, god, grandmaster, etc., then tack on the lore afterwards. However, if I were to take any one of those pre-existing characters and use them for myself, there's going to be inevitable disputes over the corruption of whoever's sage. If the text is arranged in a way that comes from actual basis, then it'd become a whole other interpretation. But what's regretful is this author doesn't enjoy textual research. Furthermore, there's not really any sense of accomplishment in building from a pre-existing character. In the end, it's still not as fun as making stuff up. So it's pure nonsense from the very first word of this work. An entire heaven full of ghosts and Buddhas with severe mortal desires, each with their own awful habits and personalities, fighting, pulling, yanking, airing each other's dirty laundry all day. They are as thick with gossip and fireworks, none of them a single bit pure and refined, but they still stubbornly put on airs like they're high and mighty. Someone asked me why every one of these heavenly officials all have skeletons in their closets, or were perplexed over why such crummy people can become heavenly officials too. It's very simple. Because I said so. I've said at the very beginning, too, ascension or not, entering the heavens or not, can all be determined by such things as ability, hard work, and shit luck, and very seldom does it have to do with ethics or morality. This novel has some shadow of an adventure travelogue. For example, the pit where criminals are thrown down to be bitten or devoured by snakes, scorpions, and beasts, the rocky cave for sheltering from a sandstorm, are all places I've seen in an ancient city in the Great Northwest. The windstorms in the Northwest were too strong, and I accidentally sprained my foot, but still used my camera to take pictures furiously. What a brand new experience. But while strolling about in those magnificent and gloomy gigantic rock caves, admiring all the divine statues of various sizes and varying postures, my belief is fully and further cemented. I will write a love story between a god and his believer. Love story. In all three of my current novels, Hualien is the pair with the most flavor of tradition, in my opinion. If we see anything that seems like it's going to talk about scum villain, I'll skip it, so no worries. Let's talk about a small encounter first. While hiking in Yunnan, I saw a very run-down old Taoist shrine on the famous Taoist mountain. In the front hall is a damaged donation box and a plaque very sincerely written with, "This shrine is in danger of collapse. Please kindly donate." I laughed to death and donated 100 yen, and then I saw the red flowering tree growing in this shrine. The flowering tree was very, very tall, centuries old. Apparently, it's the world's largest and tallest flowering tree, still blooming beautifully and ardently. At the time, most of the character designs for TGCF were already set, so when I saw this, it felt like an amazing coincidence. When it comes to character designs, the Shaos were decided on first for the first two novels, but I was torn over the Gongs for a long time and needed a run-in period. Hua Chong, however, was an exception. Inspiration struck, and there he was. Inspiration struck again, and I blinded one of his eyes. In the design, Hua Chong's father is a man of Shanla's royal capital, but his mother is an evil beauty of a foreign ethnicity. So, when Hua Chong first appeared, he'd have a small trace of a foreign culture. In the outline, I referenced many ethnicities to determine their foreign ethnicity. The tattoo is an example. It seems many ethnic tribes have the custom of tattooing, and the tattoo would make Hua Chong feel somewhat rebellious and a teeny bit juvenile, plus the sexiness of being childish. As for maple leaves, butterflies, silver accessories, beast totems, etc., they're all elements that are fairly easy to guess which ethnicity they're from, since there's a lot of information on that. Still, I hope absolutely no one will bring any actual ethnicities into it, since my understanding is very shallow after all, so let's just keep things first and foremost imaginary. If this causes any misunderstandings for anyone in real life, it would be very troublesome. Besides, since I formally decided on Hua Chong's personality while traveling to Shanghai, technically his birthplace is in Shanghai. Other than manipulating some foreign wicked tricks later, Hua Chong lived in the Kingdom of Shanla for over 10 years. So the Han culture has a deep influence on him. What are you all blabbering all seriously about? In the abandoned draft, Hua Chong often sang to his beloved a love song in a long-lost language his mother taught him. If Shilian asked what he was singing, he'd blink slyly and tell nonsense. But as the novel progressed, I realized Hua Chang's parents and his background didn't necessarily need to be written, so we can just chat about this setup and let it go. It's not important. In any case, Hua Hua is a good boy. Whether he's smiling fakely, or he's got a little silver chain on his boot, or all of his designs are related to decisions that came fast and delightfully. My greatest happiness is to change his clothes and give him new appearances, and felt regret that I couldn't manage to put together 10 sets. Hopefully I can work on this during the edit. We'll see. It was actually the Xiao Shilian who tortured me for up to half a year's time. When the novel started serializing, I was still torn over him for a long time. My feelings towards him are more complicated in comparison. It's not that I dislike him. Trust me, my likes and dislikes are very easy to guess. I like men who, the moment they emerge, make people say, ah, that's someone with a story. But he's one of the biggest reasons why this novel was painful for me. In the past, when I write, even if I'm not familiar with the character at the beginning, I can usually grasp the feeling within 3 days. But for Shilian, I was struggling even after 5-6 days, and my heart lurched. One of the tags on the novel is inspirational because Shilian is a loser. He must experience youthful ignorance, overestimation of his own abilities, have been laughable, been foolish, made mistakes, despaired, felt hatred, gone crazy. But he can't run and he can't hide. Everything is what it is. All this was killing me. Not just within the text, but outside the text too. My mediation was useless, and I have no energy anymore either. So in order to not be affected, I stopped looking at the comments altogether. I understand that feeling. Since I always habitually vaccinate myself before serialization begins, speculating on all the worst possible scenarios and preparing myself mentally, by the time serialization started, I had already expected how the negative comments would go down. But after much hesitation, I still thought, well, why not try all different kinds of characters? I haven't tried writing a main character like this before. But the most important thing is, by my instincts, someone like Hua Chang will most definitely love someone like this. So after a good half a year's worth of qualms, in the end, I still typeset him. It's you! This is a love story. It's about gentleness, dreams, something never to be given up on, and someone never to be forgotten. During middle school and high school, sometimes I'd write some mind-boggling stories, but I've always had a random fixation, the belief that a person shouldn't see love as their life. They must have their own ambitions, their own ideals, their own goals in life, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, they won't have their own soul, not independent, blah, blah, blah. But later, this idea slowly began to change, because I realized, though, I'm always saying people shouldn't put so much emphasis on love. Truthfully, what attracts my eyes the most is oftentimes the people whose emotions are so powerful, they're like moths to flames. Does this count as the body being truthful while the mouth lies? Either way, after realizing this, I can't help but think what I thought when I was too young is too arrogant and single-faceted. How can someone love another so deeply with abandon? Is it laughable? It's too incredible. Can it really be done to that degree? They must have obsessive disorders. There's probably not one in a million. But when I think about it, a shocking dummy like Shilian who works hard but pleases no one, refusing to look back with his head cracked open, is equally hard to find one in a million. So if looked at it in this way, then the two of you are really made for each other. I've seen you at your worst, but so what? You are my dream. Oh. Weird-ass hobby and silly dailies outlook. At first, the foundation I set for TGCF is warmth. I wanted the story to be a bit soft, a bit sexy, a bit healing, a bit simple. So at the beginning, the outlining was putting all the efforts in going in the direction of the fresh, new-style traditional village life. Every day, they'd grow some vegetables, drink some tea, maybe beat up some little monsters or demons who are causing trouble, assist the elderly Junwoo across the street. Something similar. Oh my gosh, little Junwoo going across the street. To this end, I drank a ton of chicken soup to brainwash myself, hoping to nourish a pair of compassionate eyes to see the world. But reality is proof. Right now, I still prefer the heavier and more colorful worldly desires and emotions, that desperate love and hate. Every time I'm writing a character, I always secretly anticipate when they would suddenly explode in madness. I love you, I love you, I love you to death. I hate you, go die. Let me die, save me, save me, save me. For example, Blackwater ripping Shiwudu apart with his bare hands. How did I manage to burst out 8,000 to 10,000 words all of a sudden? Well, it's because it didn't require much thinking at all. The dialogue and the script were both bang, 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 shooting out like a machine gun. I never thought about why a character would say this or do that. I'm only very certain that they were only going to say this and do that from the beginning. For example, why did Shi Wudu tried to strangle Shi Qingchang before he died. Before I had time to ponder the why, I'd already written it out. He's already done it. It's only after that I understood, why did he do that, what he did? And this understanding is only my own speculation on his psychology. In any case, he's the one who went to strangle. I didn't make him do it. Ooh, I like that. But although it didn't work, the work didn't end up warm, I made it very comedic. I actually really enjoy writing comedies, and I like writing dailies too. From the very beginning, I'd hoped TGCF would have a daily life and adventures go hand in hand, that there are horrific cases and battling to pass a level, but also clowning around and friendly visits too. But I'm not used to it yet, so my manipulation of it is still not proficient enough. I thought it worked out great. Serialization. The key words for the process of writing this work are feeling lost and pain. I've mentioned it at the start, but when I first began writing the outline, I was feeling really gung-ho about it, but the closer to the end, the more painful it began. Maybe no one will believe me, but TGCF was originally only intended to be 36,000 words. Ha ha! So the outline was only 5,000. The reason I said I was going to archive the whole novel was because this counted as what I had predicted. Of course, everyone should know very well now that I'm never accurate in predicting word count. Who knew that no matter how I wrote, nothing felt right, and I changed several different versions of the opening alone. Even now, I'm still not satisfied with this opening. Of all three openings, Scum Villain is the one I'm most pleased with. Okay, cool. That's exciting. Good to know. Anyway, it was under these distressful and confused circumstances I saved a bunch of manuscripts. This is the first time I've ever saved manuscripts for such a long time, but I still feel the result wasn't good enough, so a lot of the manuscripts were abandoned. At the time, I really couldn't figure it out. I was really anxious, and the thought of, well, maybe I won't start with this novel. Change to a different one had crossed my mind. But the preview had already gone out, so it wouldn't sound very good if I changed my mind at the last minute. Besides, I'd already written so much. If I didn't use it, wouldn't it be a waste? So I could only continue to sink into this investment. The end result is my speed became slower and slower, and the conclusion was nowhere in sight. I'm curious how many manuscripts she has for books. In the end, I still thought this won't do. If I kept going like this, it'd be 2 years and I still wouldn't finish. Should I stimulate myself? So without thinking much further, let's start. And so I released chapters as I edited, practically rewriting the whole thing, and all while writing new text burning out. Until finally, midway through serialization, I finally discovered the reasons for all the difficulties. It's complicated and specific, so I won't lay it out. I did have plans to write a million plus thousand long words of serialization, but it shouldn't be something that'd take place many years later. I hadn't expected it to be too soon. TGCF is a complete accident. I haven't matured yet. This took me by surprise. It already takes me a long time to think things up. A novel of this length should have taken me at least 3 years' time to figure out the outline, but dragging on for this long is absurd. Had I known the content was going to be this huge, I probably wouldn't have approached the outline. I probably would have approached the outline much differently. But these are things that you'll never know beforehand. You only know when you do it. It's the same for doing anything. Unless the pen is on the paper, it's nothing but talk. In any case, the arrow on the bow must shoot. Since it's shot, then I must grit my teeth and persevere to the end. Writing a serialization is a high-stress affair. I know there are authors who can update fast and update good, but I know I'm not one of them. When I think about things, I chew for a long time. Before, in the past, when I wrote, the average speed was 5,000 in half a year. So daily updates were a struggle for me. Moreover, my shape is sometimes good, sometimes bad. When I'm not stuck, the speed is 1,003, and in such cases, my reaction is fairly good. When I'm stuck, it really is suffering. I'm not satisfied with the text I squeeze out when I'm stuck, and somewhat impolite comments would also appear when that happens. That's when I get depressed, and the vicious cycle continues. TGCF is definitely the one novel that's brought me the most pain. I often felt powerless, almost suffocatingly so, and every day I'd wonder if this was training to strengthen my ability against pressure. Plus, the large-scale rumors since Modao Zushi still haven't stopped, even now. And the mud is slung at me at every given opportunity, so I really am tired. If I wasn't, because I'm especially free, I wouldn't even have the energy to say much. Plus, the many troubles of real life after these 8 months of carrying this burden are no joke. I'm really going bald. It's just such a headache. Archive, and I don't think it'd work out. The speed's too slow. Serialized, but daily updates are really too exhausting, with a bunch of other issues on top of that. There's pros and cons for each, and I'm still trying to figure out how to solve this awkward problem. I don't want to hide anything either. I know many people have come to read TGCF at first because of Modao Zushi. I'm not going to lie, I don't think that's a very good thing. I've also mentioned this at the beginning, but the high expectations are a double-edged sword, so I've vaccinated from the very start. You guys will never see a second Modao Zushi again. And I don't think there should be. I think that, you know, Modao Zushi is amazing, and I love it to pieces, but I would rather her write different stories in her own way because her writing is so good than to see the same story over and over again. Like, we have Modao Zushi, and we have this, and then we have Scum Villain. Like, there's such, I'm assuming Scum Villain's a different story, but like, this is such a different story than Modao Zushi, but I love it so much. I wouldn't expect it to be the same. Besides, it's been 1 to 2 years between the start of TGCF's opening and Modao Zushi's ending, so I thought maybe it's faded some, but it was still useless. Only a few chapters into the serialization, the problems I had long thought of poked its head out and persisted until midway towards the end, and they're still there even when the story concluded, so I suppose the bickering will continue. I keep wondering whether I should have started with a modern-day story instead. That way at least no one would compare present day with the ancient world, but what can I do? In truth, most readers and authors only have the bond of 1 or 2 books. Liking one book and not, it doesn't necessarily mean liking the other books. Times like these, I don't think people should ask for too much. Authors don't ask too much of readers, and readers don't ask too much of authors. After all, writing and reading are both very personal and subjective affairs. I never promised customer satisfaction guaranteed, just I'm writing for myself, and if you like it, then read it, and if you don't like it, then drop it. Love. I know better than anyone the good and bad of TGCF. Just taking myself, for example, in the process of writing this work, sometimes I get the feeling of being bound, unable to stretch out my limbs, so anxious I'm rolling all over the ground. But there are other parts where I think are rather interesting. I can't bear to look at those parts that I'm dissatisfied with, but the parts I like, I really love. However, even though so much blood and sweat are spilt, I still wasn't able to achieve the result I wanted. But there's no reason why I can't take this as training when the level of difficulty suddenly jumped exponentially. Besides, I still believe there are many readers who like it. Yes! Even if there are only thousands who truly love it, that's good too. It's worth it. That means this almost a year's worth of all-nighters, hair loss, mental blood vomit weren't for naught. Oh no, I love this story. MXTX. Editing. Right now, the story's current form is still somewhat far from what I had in mind from the beginning, so I still plan to fix it a little. Editing is actually not that great of a thing because most readers won't be looking back. The life of web novel is too short, so in the few years maybe no one will remember this work anymore. Plus, pirated report rates are too high, and there are many who don't read the original and go down to download the text instead, so even as I edit, the outside would rumor it to be pirated, so it's pretty helpless. Or readers get attached to the old work, think the older version is better, and scorn the new version instead. I will be honest, it's going to be hard for me because I kind of like the original versions usually of stuff. But I'm excited to see what the edits are when we get to them at the end of this novel. So that'll be fun. But to me, the serialization really is too rushed. I want to at least have those who enjoy this story see a better version of it. Of course, the most important thing being I want myself to see it. Nonetheless, I still hope I can figure out a way to get rid of this habit from now on. The newer version will unlock some brand new plots and maps. Those who are interested can just take this as a Tuesday special, and those who aren't can just leave it. But because writing this really hurt me too deeply and the length is too long, it's a huge production, so I won't be able to finish it that fast. Maybe it'll be after the 4th novel. Maybe before that. I can't say. We'll see what life has in store. Or maybe because I'm exhausted. The structure's already set and there can't be any major changes after all. JJ has really troublesome restrictions when it comes to editing. I can't promise too much right now, but we'll see after a few days rest. And, oh, Grim Reaper. The preview for the new novel Grim Reapers Get No Days Off, is already out. You can see it when you enter the author's bulletin, or maybe I'll add a link in a bit. It starts 2018, a modern day Don Mai. The subject is weird, so I don't know how to categorize it. Oh, okay. The outline of this work was actually produced the same time as TGCF. At the time, I struggled a bit in picking who to start with first. Very indecisive, but in the end, it was because Hua Chong was born first and Chao Chi was born a teeny bit after, so TGCF it was. Oh, Chao Chi! If people are interested, then take a look. If not, that's fine too. We'll see. Still, vaccination first. This is my first attempt writing modern-day Don Mai. There's definitely going to be all sorts of random attempts and experimentations. I don't know how many people will really accompany me in going all the way, but whatever, come if you want. I'll be off first. MXTX, February 25th, 2018. Oh, okay. So interesting. So she is working on another book. Huh. Interesting. All right. All right. Okay. Curiouser and curiouser. So that's the end of this text, 2,000 pages. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. Well, we still have another chapter to read. So I still want to read it out of the book, right? I think it's rather interesting that we don't have that included in this. So that's fascinating. But oh my gosh. So I loved, before we talk about chapter 245, I loved this little chapter 244. Oh my god. There's just so much good. The idea that they rebuilt the Puji shrine, that they made it from the money of the people there. It's like the common folk coming together using gold. I like that there was so much faith in humanity in this last chapter because one, you had the people coming together using the gold bars to remake the Puji shrine, which was really, really cute. I loved that a lot. But then you also had the beggars showing up and Shi Qingxiao making good on their promise to get them the rice and everything. I love that the boar and the rooster from Ghost City made the rice and the soup. That's hilarious. Shilian's like, I didn't make it. But, oh my gosh. There is a little part of me that wanted to ship Function and Muqing in this chapter because, especially when it's like, you know, Zhanlan and So left Function. He's just kind of bummed and Muqing's like, well, what'd I tell you? And it's like, could Function be our bisexual king? Sure he could. But then they're fighting with brooms the rest of the time and you're like, what are you doing? And it's just chaos. I like the idea that Hua Chong is teaching Chan Yuzhen how to nurture souls so that he could possibly bring Yin Yu back as a ghost. Yes, please. Let this happen. I need Yin Yu to come back as a ghost. I need it so badly. But I was really sad because I kept thinking that Qirong was going to come back. And that doesn't seem to be the case. We also don't know about Mei Nianqing. We still have like half of this book, so maybe we'll find out. I don't know. But I was really sad that we didn't get to see Qirong. I love the idea though. Oh, look, there's everybody. Everybody eating. There is the Windmaster. I love the former Windmaster with their little hair up with Shilian, and Hua Chong's just over there on the side like, please leave. And there's Muqing and Function fighting with the brooms. That's hilarious. I always like the drawings of Shilian with their hair up in the little bun. It's very, very cute. But oh my god, the essence of evil, the Heaven's Eye saying, did you know you have the essence of evil inside of you? And the thing. So are we to assume that Shilian and Hua Chong have done the deed? If they're talking about the essence of evil from the inside out, are we to assume that Shilian is not a sweet cinnamon bun virgin anymore? Are we to assume that? Are we to assume that? Do we get to see that? Are we supposed to imagine that ourselves? How dare. But also, I'm sorry, but them doing the calligraphy lessons in the Qiandong Temple, where that's their new paradise manor. I love Hua Chong dragging Shilian away, being like, let's just leave this. Like, we'll come back later. They'll sort themselves out. It's fine. And Shilian's like, okay. Like, I love that. But this image, this is maybe one of my favorite pictures in the entire series. It's Shilian with their hair down. Oh my god. And Hua Chong with the tattoo. That is one of my favorite images. And then you can see the red string. It looks like a wedding ring on Shilian's finger. And Hua Chong's looks like a wedding ring too. Oh my god. I love that so much. It's so beautiful. Oh. That's so freaking cute. And I love that that's the tattoo. The tattoo the whole time. We were like, well, what's that tattoo about? And everybody was like, we don't know. And then in the end you find out it's him writing Shilian's name on his arm to keep him with him all this time. So they could always look at his arm and know Shilian was what he was working for, right? Oh, and then you have the little dolls of them. And he's holding the red pearl and they both have the little strings. That's so cute. That's such a perfect ending. I love it. I love they have to be worshipped together. And they balance each other out. That's so wonderful. I freaking love that. That's amazing. Yes. Yes, please. So, interestingly enough, we're only 169 pages into this, and we still have like 169, like almost 200 pages of extra stuff. So I'm very curious, right? So what we're gonna read next is chapter 245, which is Lantern Riddles on Yan Zhao Night. Okay. There we go. So I'm assuming that this is just one of the extras, right? I'm assuming this is one of the extras. So I'm very curious to know what we're getting this, but this is to pages 170 to 182. So just a little bit, just a little something that we're going to read to tie into this. All right. Very curious, but all right. Tis the festive Shangzhan holiday. What a joyous night. Although spring had sprung, the brisk winds of winter hadn't yet departed. Shilian trudged along the roadside, hauling a large sack on his back, his face slightly flushed from the gales. The sack held a huge assortment of things he'd just collected. He didn't know whether any of it was useful, but regardless, this was all he could count on to make a living going forward. I like that it's just like he's still a scrap collector, or maybe this is... maybe this is in the past. We'll see. The stall was called He Family Snacks, and it sold simple fare. A family of 3 was sitting around a small table waiting further inside. Likely the owner of the establishment was his wife and child. There was another woman bustling about the table, slender in figure and lovely in looks. The owner called out to her to stop working and come sit with them inside, but she wouldn't listen. She simply trilled coming with a voice like a yellow warbler's. A few scattered customers sat on the other tables, and it seemed they'd come specifically for this young woman. There was casual conversation here and there, but before long they all went home. After all, today was the Shangyan festival. Ah, it's Yan Zhao, Shilian remarked inwardly. Yan Zhao it is traditional to eat Yang Zhao, glutinous rice flour dumplings with sweet fillings served in a soup on Shangyan. The food is so strongly associated with the holiday that sometimes it's called the Yan Zhao Festival. Oh. When he was little, the king and queen of Shanla ate Yan Zhao with him every Shangyan. Young Shilian had been a very picky eater. He didn't like Yang Zhao, and still didn't like it even when the imperial chef served him the best of the best, ladled in the finest bowls. It was too sweet, and the stickiness made his teeth itch. He'd refuse every type of filling on offer, gulp all the balls down in a couple of swallows, and be done with it. When he was a little older, he ran off on his own to cultivate on Mount Taisang. Sometimes he'd go home when Yan Zhao rolled around, sometimes he wouldn't. He hadn't had Yan Zhao that many times overall. When he thought about it now, he was too surprised to discover that he no longer remembered what it tasted like. Shilian stopped next to the stall and glanced at it cautiously, then cautiously lowered the big ugly sack on his shoulder to the ground, and finally he cautiously entered. He removed his bamboo hat and held it in his hands as he voiced his request. Boss, 1 bowl of Yan Zhao, please, if you have any. The owner, a rather old man, glanced at him. Before he could answer, the young woman beckoned him to sit. Yes, sir, she responded with a smile. Come in and have a seat. She immediately went to work. Shilian sat down, but he was puzzled when he saw the owner shake his head. He wondered if he was dirty and thus had incurred the man's displeasure, and so he immediately checked his sleeves. He only relaxed a little when he was certain that they were clean. Is something the matter? Shilian asked. If the owner didn't like the bag inside the stall, he would take it outside. But the owner took another look at him and shook his head. It's tragic, real tragic. Huh? What is? Shilian asked. You're eating Yan Zhao at some street stall outside in the cold on this perfectly good Yan Zhao evening. How tragic is that? Shilian was speechless for a moment. Oh, don't say that. Do you want it my business or not? The owner didn't respond. He turned away to retrieve the bowl and end the conversation with Shilian. Okay. After sitting there for a bit, Shilian sensed someone was eyeing him, or rather, eyeing him and his abnormally gigantic sack. The owner's daughter had snuck over and was now crouching on the ground and poking at the bag. She seemed very curious about what was stuffed inside, and it took several calls from her mother before she went back inside. This was a time before Shilian had developed his impenetrably thick skin, so he couldn't help but give his giant bag a kick in the hope of stuffing it under the table where no one could see. Ah, so this is in the past. Okay, so this is not present time. He's just in his scrap collector days. Okay. Unfortunately, this was a small stall, and the tables and benches were similarly tiny. Nothing could be hidden. Left with no other choice, Shilian cleared his throat quietly a few times and did his best to ignore the eyes of others. He would get used to it eventually. It was no big deal. See, we have all this good stuff happen to Shilian, and now we gotta go back to this. Suddenly, a thought struck him. He hurriedly reached into his breast pocket, and his face changed. Now it's an even worse tragedy, he thought. Not only am I eating yanjiao all alone in the cold at a street stall, I don't have any money. He planned to make a quick getaway then and there, but of course the owner just came over with a large porcelain bowl before he could. 5 pennies, the owner said as he set the bowl in front of him. Shilian was at a loss for words. He cleared his throat a few times, his fist pressed against his mouth. Do you not have the money? The owner asked. Still stricken, Shilian couldn't reply, but the owner simply said, forget it. I'll give it to you for free, considering how tragic you look. I'll be packing up once you're done, so hurry home. Today is Yanjiao, the day for family reunions. Oh my god! Why, MXTX? Why? That's the worst! No! Shilian sat back down. He didn't have anywhere or anyone to return to after finishing this bowl of Yanjiao, but he didn't voice that out loud. He simply mumbled a soft thank you. The owner left as soon as he set down the bowl. He served up the remaining Yanjiao in a small pot at the front of the stall to a different table. The little girl was biting on her spoon with her head tilted. When is Gege coming home? I want to wait until he's back before digging in. He's so late, the owner chimed in. Coming home so late on Yanjiao. How outrageous. He's working hard. He'll be home soon, the old woman chided. Don't scold him when he comes back. Meow air, stop working. I feel awful always needing you to help out. Come here, let's eat together. Not at all, the young woman replied. She cleaned the last table before sitting down with them to share the yanjiao. They seemed to be waiting for another member of the family to join them, and the 4 of them chatted and laughed all the while. Shilian watched them and then picked up his own bowl. He delivered 1 yanjiao to his mouth and sipped a mouthful of the sweet soup. He still couldn't tell what it tasted like. Gege. Gege. Oh. Shilian snapped out of it and noticed that Huachong was gazing at him. The red of Huachong's clothes was even more vibrant against his skin as the lantern lights gave a gentle hue to his pale, lifeless complexion. Shilian lost himself for a moment, watching him before he could answer. Oh my gosh, so he was like just thinking up this time when he was the scrap collector and he was going by. I really like this little opening here because like it's so sad because he's not with his family and he can't be with his family, and then he sees these people all enjoying themselves and having this like family dinner, and Shilian's like, just, well, I got this free bowl of sweet soup I don't like that I'm eating all by myself, you know. No problems here. Oh my god. I'm glad we've gone back to the present because it was getting really sad. What? Gege, are you tired? Do you need a break from walking? Huachong asked. Shilian nodded absent-mindedly. I'm sorry I went overboard last night. Huachong apologized! Oh my god, how? It took a moment for Shilian to realize what he meant, and he quickly waved his hands. Oh, what are you saying? That's not it. Everything's fine! Oh, I'm sorry you can't walk, Shilian. I guess I went overboard. Oh my god! Well, yeah, no. Shilian is not a sweet virgin anymore. We can safely assume that. Oh my god! Huachong arched an eyebrow. Oh, is that so? If everything's fine even after that, does that mean I didn't go overboard last night? Does that mean I can? Oh my god! Huachong's like, oh, well, if it wasn't that hard, you know, I could try harder. Suddenly, Shilian remembered they were still strolling along the main street of the ghost city. Oh, it's like the little drawing back there, the cover where they're walking around the ghost city. This jolted him back to the present, and he scanned the area in alarm. Sure enough, without him realizing it, they'd been surrounded by a dense crowd of strangely, oddly shaped creatures. The ones with long ears had them perked, and the ones with short ears stretched their necks. Almost all of them were staring at them with unblinking eyes as wide as saucers. Shilian was too shocked, speechless. At last he admonished, oh gosh, so long. Huachong smiled in response and folded his hands behind his back. All right, I was wrong. I'll stop. You dirty flirt. Oh my god. Ah! By then, Shilian had moved his eyes from the Yanzhao monster stall on the street side. There we go. Countless vibrant red lanterns lined both sides of the ghost city's main street, bearing riddles just waiting to be solved. Solve a riddle, the ghost hollered. There's a prize if you get it right, a great prize. Huachong turned to Shilian. Gege, do you want to try? There are prizes to win. Shilian walked over. Well, let's give it a shot. The crowd of ghosts erupted with excitement, pushing and shoving one another in the chaos. Shh, Granduncle is about to solve riddles. Granduncle is about to solve riddles. Granduncle? Oh my God, really? Shilian was left a little speechless by the overwhelming wave of enthusiastic shouting. They made it sound like he was about to put on a grand spectacle, like a great shaman dance. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Shilian moved to pick up a random lantern, but instead a tentacle carefully delivered one to his hands directly. Please, go ahead, go ahead. It didn't matter to Shilian which lantern he started with, so he accepted this one and gave it a look. The riddle was, sought until the head of white. Woe, as in me, Shilian answered without much thought. Sought until the head of white, or sought until old age. Take the dash on top of the white and add it to seek, and it makes the character for me. The riddles in this section are all based on changing the meaning of Chinese characters by cleverly adding or removing parts of the character based on the coded meaning of the sentence. Oh, I like this little picture of Huachong and Shilian with the lanterns. And if you look up in the corner, there is like the little version of them as the fox and the ferret. That's freaking adorable. Love it. Okay. Huachong clapped. Gege, you're amazing, he praised. The ghost clapped as well, their applause as loud as thunder. They also howled and hollered. Some strange black shadow creature even started doing flips in the air as it cheered. It was incredibly over the top. Shilian's sweat dropped. This is actually really easy, you know? The tentacle handed over a second lantern and beckoned him. Go ahead further. Shilian took it. This time the riddle was, one day of the spring festival. Again, without thinking, he gave his answer. Fu for husband. Festival is a homonym for the word snipe. And so on one day, sniped from spring makes the character which means man or husband, depending on the context. Huachong was about to clap again, but Shilian stopped him. Don't, this one was too easy. Really? Huachong grinned happily at him. But Gege, I really do think you're amazing. Such a flatterer, as always, Shilian thought. If I solved a lantern riddle you devised, that would be amazing. The tentacle gave him a third lantern, hollering, please, go ahead. When he looked down at it, Shilian frowned a little. Oh, this one's hard, the crowd chimed in. Shilian nodded. Sure enough, the answer to this riddle wasn't as easy to figure out as the others. The riddle was, bashfully do I lower my head to express my admiring heart. It wasn't that difficult, though. Shilian had the solution only a moment later. Bashful refers to the touch me not plant, which, so we take the character's plant radical, lower head, indicates that one is to take the head or the first part of the word lower, giving us this. And finally, we take heart or the middle of the phrase, admiring heart, which is, and there's some characters here, all three parts when pieced together make the word flower. The answer to this riddle is hua, for flower. As soon as he finished and announced the answer, he covered his ears. Sure enough, it set off pandemonium again. The crowd praised him with boundless abandon, their hype comically over the top, making him cringe. Wearing a toothy grin, Huachong gazed at him. Gege, this time you were really amazing. Oh, I love it. It's just like to compare from before when he was at the little shop getting the Yongzhao and he was by himself and he was a scrap collector with this like bag of junk and he was so self-conscious that everybody was staring at him and he was just like, you know, all by himself being a fool and didn't think he was good for anything. And now Huachong has him in the ghost city and he's solving the riddles of the lanterns and he's praising him. It's like he's trying to give Shilian the praise he thinks he deserves, right? The tentacles surreptitiously slunk over with another lantern. Shilian returned the grin. I've got another trick that's even more amazing. This time, I can guess the answer without even seeing the riddle. Do you believe me? Oh, Huachong said, his eye widening at this proclamation. Is that right? Does Gege know such an astonishing trick? Shilian took the lantern. Of course, let me guess. The answer is city. That is the Chong in Huachong, right? He raised the lantern, and sure enough, the riddle said, one move of armed forces stabilizes the South. One moved on armed forces. Changes to this, leaves this, Sheila explained. As for stabilizes the South at the bottom of the word remains in place, which changes it to this. When combined, it forms the word Chong for city. This should have been the hardest of the riddles, but unfortunately, he had guessed the pattern beforehand. And what phrase did the four answers form when strung together? Wo Fu Hua Chong, my husband Hua Chong. Ah! Oh my God! With their scheme exposed, the ghosts stopped cheering. Instead, they turned their gazes skyward and began to cough awkwardly. Hua Chong's eyes swept slowly across the crowd, as if that look had terrified them out of their wits. Some ghosts scurried into random lanterns, while others burrowed underground. The ones remaining clutched their heads as they cried out for forgiveness. Oh, don't be angry, Chongju. It wasn't my idea. It wasn't mine either. Quack, yeah, right. You were the loudest one of all agreeing to it. Beat it, Hua Chong said mildly. Oh, so Hua Chong didn't put it up to them. The ghosts just did it themselves because they know that Shilian's his wife, literally. Oh my God. Oh my God. Or his husband, however you want to take it. Oh my God. In an instant, everyone in the street, humans and ghosts alike, scattered and disappeared like clouds in the wind. Shilian grinned as he hung the lantern on its rack. Let's head back. The two walked towards the Thousand Lights Temple side by side, which is the Cheondong Temple. Along the way, Hua Chong also pleaded for mercy in a deadpan tone. Don't look at me like that, Gege. I really didn't tell them to do that. I know, Shilian replied with a smile. You wouldn't have constructed the riddles like that. Oh? And how does Gege suppose I would have constructed them? Hua Chong asked. It would have been my husband San Long, of course, Shilian replied. He hadn't suspected anything until that moment, but suddenly he trailed off as he remembered that a loose tongue causes trouble. But it was too late. Hua Chong had already burst out laughing. Oh, gotcha, Gege. Nice one, you sly thing. The two arrived at the Thousand Lights Temple. As soon as they entered the Great Hall, Shilian noticed the table had been set up on the jade platform. He blinked. As he approached, he noticed 2 bowls of Yangzhou. When he looked back, he saw Hua Chong had approached as well. This is what Gege was looking at on the street, right? He asked. Shilian nodded. Sit down, Gege, Hua Chong beckoned. Let's eat together. Instead of taking a seat, Shilian flung himself into Hua Chong's arms and buried his face in his chest. He hugged Hua Chong tightly, refusing to let go, and Hua Chong returned the embrace. After so many years, Shilian could finally recall the taste of Yangzhou. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh, well, you know, that's all. Oh, this was so good. Oh my God. I'm going to mark my page because I'm going to be reading out of this book next week for the next set of pages. Oh my God. This was very, very good. I don't know what specific notes. I don't think for this week there's a need for Whiteboard-kun. There might be next week. With the next set of chapters, because I'm going to read a pretty big chunk next week and look at it. Next week I'm going to be looking at chapters 246 to 2. I think it's 246 to 2. There was a section I wanted to read together because it said like parts 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, to 249. So 246 to 249. So it's a big 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's 4 chapters together. And it's going to be pages 183 to 242. So it's going to be a pretty big chunk. That's going to be a big old... So we'll probably need Whiteboard-kun for that one. But these 2 chapters were so... Like, they're pretty straightforward. But they were so sweet. I absolutely loved seeing Shilian... Like, you see at the beginning of chapter 245, him in this, like, loneliness and isolation. And he can't remember, like, the taste of sweetness. Or because he's not with his family anymore. And he's just all alone. And then for Hua Chong at the end to bring out the little bowls and be like, well, let's have this together, right? and for that to be Shelian's family and all this. Oh, I love it so much. Oh my God. And I love that the ghosts, they just love Shelian. The ghosts are just like, oh, King, you got your man. Yeah. I love the ghosts are the most supportive. Like, the heavenly officials and Mu Ching and Feng Shin have no clue what to think of Hua Chong and Shelian's relationship. And they're like, oh, just don't know the gayness. What do we do? And meanwhile, the ghost city's like, yes. The ghost city has like a damn pride parade, like already made. Like, oh my God. Like, I just literally imagine that the moment Hua Chong went back to the ghost city and Shelian was there, they just rolled out a parade and there was like rainbows and glitter and confetti. And they're like, welcome back, Shelian. Shelian's like, I didn't know. Oh my God, the fact of a rainbow divine statue. Dear God. So I'm hoping we still have, if I get this on here right, we still have 3 more weeks of Heaven Official's Blessing. That's it. Holy cow. I'm going to talk about we'll obviously have the extras that Reiki is going to be getting for me, the extras that we'll be looking at. And then I'll talk about the audio drama and all of that when we get closer. Probably wait towards the end before I talk about the audio drama and that fun. But I can't believe we are so close to the end of Heaven Official's Blessing. It's going to be 80 weeks. Like nearly 100 weeks if you count the Donghua as well. Because there was the first 12 episodes of Donghua. So like 92 weeks of Heaven Official's Blessing. Oh my God. Nearly 2 years. Insane. Insanity, y'all. Insanity. But I apologize, this week is a little bit shorter than usual, but maybe next week will be longer. But I just love it. I love the idea of it all coming back full circle with Chan Yijin and the gold bars. I love Chan Yijin's still there and Hua Chong's trying to help him. I love just the fact that Shelian is happy. And even though he's remembering some of that more melancholy times, he's happy with Hua Chong and they're together. That's absolutely beautiful. So, yay. So I'm excited. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yes, I'll be back very soon next week with chapters 246 to 249 of Heaven Official's Blessing.